AITA for telling my ex-MIL that I have every right to move on with my life. I, 36 was married to Sarah, then 30F, for 4 years. We have a son together, Jerry, who would be turning 8 next week if he were still here, if I even knew where he was. 6 years ago, Sarah vanished. One minute we were in the middle of a bitter custody battle. The next, she and Jerry were gone. The day it happened is burned into my memory. It was her weekend to drop Jerry off. I waited, watching the driveway, checking my phone every 2 minutes. I called. No answer. Hours passed. I drove by her place, empty. The silence was deafening. After 24 hours, I filed a missing persons report. Turns out, she crossed state lines in violation of our custody order. She was charged with parental kidnapping, technically a felony. But despite local police and even the FBI investigating, there's been no trace of them. Nothing. Not a credit card transaction, phone signal, or even a secondhand witness sighting. 5 years later, the case has gone cold. And in our state, one more year of no contact means both Sarah and Jerry can be legally declared dead. But it doesn't feel like death. It feels like a wound that never closes. Sarah and I didn't have a peaceful divorce. We clashed on parenting styles, priorities, custody, everything. I wanted to be in Jerry's life as an equal parent, not a visitor. She didn't take that well. When I filed for 50-50 custody, I think something in her snapped. Maybe she felt like she was losing control. I don't know. She was supposed to drop Jerry off on Sunday night. When she didn't, I assumed there was traffic or an emergency. But an hour became 2. 2 became 8. I drove to her place. Empty. The landlord said she had moved out earlier that week. I filed the missing persons report within a day. The police took it seriously, especially since we had a custody order in place. When they realized she had likely crossed state lines with Jerry without permission, it became federal. That led to an FBI investigation. But nothing turned up. It was like she'd evaporated into thin air. At first, I was desperate. I called every hospital, women's shelter, and airport. I scoured Facebook groups, Reddit threads, even dark web forums. Every possible lead led to a dead end. No passports flagged, no social security activity, no credit reports. It was like they just vanished. And so began the long wait. The ache that creeps into your bones. The birthdays missed. The holidays spent staring at an empty chair. Grief without closure is its own kind of torture. Grieving someone when you don't know if they're gone is the cruelest kind of pain. The first 2 years, I couldn't function. Every knock on the door, every child's voice in a supermarket, I flinched. I still remember standing in line at the DMV and hearing a little boy say "Daddy" behind me, and my knees nearly buckled. It wasn't Jerry, of course, but my brain wanted it to be so badly. I kept the same phone number, left his room untouched. I worked with police, private investigators, even a couple of online communities dedicated to missing persons. My ex-MIL, Sarah's mom, was incredibly supportive through all of this. We'd call each other every few months, trade possible leads, grieve together. She loved Jerry, and she missed him too. But after 5 years, something shifted. I started seeing a therapist. I started sleeping again. I still miss my son every single day, but I realized I couldn't keep putting my life on hold forever for a maybe. I wasn't betraying Jerry by breathing again. I was honoring the part of him that gave me joy, that taught me what love really is. About 6 months ago, I started dating someone. She knows everything. She's kind, patient, and doesn't try to fix me. She just lets me exist, finally, as a whole person again. We're not rushing into anything, but for the first time in years, I feel something like hope. Everything was going okay, until my ex-MIL found out I was in a new relationship. We hadn't spoken in a few months, but she called me out of the blue after hearing from mutual acquaintance that I was moving on. At first, the conversation was cordial, like always. Then her tone shifted. She asked, "How could you do this? What if Sarah and Jerry come back? How will they feel?" I told her gently but firmly that I had to start living again. That Jerry would want his dad to be happy, to have love, to stop suffering in silence. That I hadn't given up, but I couldn't stay frozen forever. She didn't take it well. She told me I was betraying them both, that I was giving up too soon, that I should be ashamed. Her voice cracked, and I could hear her breaking over the phone. I know she's hurting. I know she's lost her daughter and grandson too. But in that moment, it felt like she wanted me to drown just so I wouldn't swim ahead of her. I told her calmly, but clearly, that I have every right to move on. That doesn't mean I've stopped loving Jerry. It means I'm choosing not to be consumed by an absence I can't change. She hung up. We haven't spoken since. That phone call has haunted me for weeks. I know grief doesn't look the same for everyone. I know my ex MIL is still holding on to hope, and maybe she always will. But does that give her the right to tell me how to grieve? How long to wait? Whether I'm allowed to feel love again? I think about Jerry every day. I talk to him in my head. I imagine what he'd look like at 8. But I also know he wouldn't want me to disappear the way his mother did. He'd want me to live. He'd want me to love. So, AITA for telling my ex MIL that I have every right to move on with my life. Or am I really betraying the memory of my son and ex-wife by trying to build something new?